Lately, I've been interested in playing just about any ARPG I can come across. Looking for another one to play, I remembered I had this Van Helsing game tucked away in my Steam library for many years that I forgot about. I never really knew anything about the game, other than it's a Diablo-like in some Van Helsing universe. But the great thing about games like this is they almost always have a feature-full campaign co-op mode, so it's a great genre for co-op. So is Van Helsing just an overlooked ARPG that's actually good? Let's see. The game has 3 classes and characters to choose from. I just picked the basic sword guy, and if you're playing co-op, you have to go to the server browser and find your friend's game to join them. The first impression was admittedly pretty mild. The graphics aren't great at all at first glance, especially the aliasing and jaggies. So the overall presentation leaves much to be desired. Although the UI and the interface and the inventory looks good and is a faithful recreation of the Diablo formula, the inventory uses the same grid-based items, having different sizes depending on type, which is nice. Because some shitty ARPGs, the inventory icons are tiny and they all take up the same space and they're all little squares, which makes it feel like a bad MMO. I like when items are big and have unique graphics and feel distinct and individual. It makes the loot feel just a little bit more meaningful. So I like that Van Helsing did it the right way. As you go through the first bit of the game, it introduces some unique mechanics to you. For starters, they tried to make the combat here, I guess, more involved than other ARPGs, because on the skill tree, you have your primary attack skills, but then above those, you can choose to get these smaller nodes that make your attack do special things if you press certain buttons. Like combos. You can press A, S, D, or a combination of them to do minor combo abilities for each main attack. The added buffs were things like lifesteal, bleed, or just 50% increased damage. I didn't really enjoy the concept of having to juggle these ASD keys plus Q for health, so the whole game, I just made a conscious choice to use the D key for 50% increased damage exclusively to keep things simple. Although I do find it neat how there is the ability to do involved combos if you so desire. The RPG mechanics and skills here are fairly in-depth, but it allows you to keep it simple if you want to. For starters, it's different in that it has firearms. You can use hunting rifles, pistols, shotguns. In the skill tree menu, you have multiple tabs you can flip through, which lets you specialize into different things. One for melee, one tree for ranged, and one for passive buffs, like auras. There's another tab for special abilities called tricks. For the most part, I like to keep ARPGs simple, and I like to be the generic sword guy, so I just stuck with the melee tree and tried to get as much area of effect as possible, because it was obvious, most of the game, you're going to be fighting swarms of enemies instead of one by one. So I went with the cleave skill. Eventually I was having annoying mana problems, so I had to max out this passive ability that gives me mana on hit, which helped quite a lot. Plus it's nice that you can get mana on hit as a passive skill as well. The itemization is fairly decent. There's all sorts of different unique affixes and stats that can roll on gear, making sorting through pickups an interesting process. However, the game does simplify things a lot if you want to. It shows you a red minus and a green plus on every piece of gear, instantly letting you know what's a downgrade or an upgrade. While this doesn't indicate everything about the item being necessarily more useful or not, it's a great rule of thumb. You can even quickly go to the character sheet and see your overall DPS simplified, and simply equip any gear that increases this number, although you still have to be concerned about your defenses. I thought the itemization was fairly well done for a casual jump in and play experience. As for the absolute endgame grinding, that's not something I spent too much time in. The loot may feel trivial once you get to the absolute upper echelon of gameplay, but who is grinding endgame in a Van Helsing game? Probably no one. I think ARPGs like this are great for a one-time playthrough, but grinding the endgame and stuff seems to be something you do more in live service games like Path of Exile. The game has 3 acts, but it's not really clear when you've reached the next one, or the differences between them. Thematically, the whole game kind of follows a similar feeling. It's a lot of roaming around open fields, forested, grassy knoll places, here and there. And here and there, you get warped into these optional floating earthy rock places that are kind of cool. And towards the second half of the game, you get sent to the secret lair type hub base that has a bit of change of theme, but the locations aren't all that interesting. Though the use of colors does stand out, there's a lot of dynamic, vibrant uses of color, like the game has a lot of blues and greens and purples in the lighting, which makes everything pop on the screen. The music in particular is fairly damn good, surprisingly. Especially the main theme that plays in the secret lair, and the overall soundtrack is captivating and sounds magical. The game does have this neo-gothic Victorian overtone and theme to it, which is really nice to see in an RPG. It's a great setting, although some of the aesthetics of the armors and characters isn't quite to my taste. I would rather the characters wear more like chainmail or plate armor or something. instead of like top hats and capes, but it is what it is. The equipment you put on doesn't really feel that visually impactful, and doesn't really change how you look, beyond a slightly different sword appearance and a hat, sadly. For some reason, the game only has swords. There's no axes, spears, pikes, halberds, maces, hammers. There's just double swords, and a two-hand sword. And even when you use the two-hand sword, you still swing it with one hand. It's pretty disappointing. I'd say the biggest critique and overall crucial flaw of the game is the lack of weapon variety. Why are there just swords? But still, it was fun and exciting finding constant upgrades for your weapons. And you have this companion that follows you around the whole game called Lady Katarina, and she has her own skill tree, and you can even change her behavior. You can make her more active in fighting, or more defensive, or you can turn her into a ghost, where she cannot attack or get hurt, but it gives you a damage bonus. This companion is pretty cool, and adds more depth to the game, and I especially like how you can make her passive if you don't want to deal with it, so it's not like she's mandatory to make really strong or anything. And her skill tree is pretty decent. There's some interesting stuff on it that helps you out. The monsters, and especially death animations, and the variety of monsters was a highlight. Lots of werewolves and beasts, vampiric enemies, mythical, magical type creatures, zombies, stuff like that. But especially when you kill monsters, every enemy death feels special and unique. Sometimes even chunks of gore fly all around the screen, which was especially satisfying. The general combat is basically just holding down mouse 1 while your guy auto attacks. Then you constantly spam health potions, or your healing ability. But the catch is, they are on a significant cooldown of like 30 seconds. So it becomes this juggle of trying to heal more damage than you're taking, while dancing around all the cooldowns. For the most part it works, and is satisfactory. But I can't help but feel it's kind of an awkward, clunky workaround to the problem in the first place of having 2 spongy enemies. I don't think I fucked up my character too much, but nearly every group of enemies was a giant sponge that took 30 plus seconds to kill, which at times really brought the whole combat down to a slog, sort of. Some of the worst downsides in the game is how it seems like it uses monster level scaling. So all the monsters in the world level up alongside you invisibly. You can't ever see the monster level. For example, if you get really high level and go back to the beginning of the game, the monsters will still be almost as strong as you, and they will still be tanky. It just feels bad in ARPGs. I wish devs would never do this. I want to build a refined, strong character that can obliterate the earlier mobs. But this system defeats that. It crushes the sense of character progression. It almost feels like leveling up is pointless. Why bother when the enemy is just going to level up right alongside me and still be just as strong? It's like if you just speedran through the game at level 1, it wouldn't even make a difference. I could be wrong about all this, but that's just how the whole system felt to me. I never really felt a significant power increase in my character. As soon as it felt like I was getting stronger, the enemies would equalize a moment later. Level scaling is just bad in ARPGs. The other bad problem is the entire quest system and quest direction. It's almost impossible to tell where a quest is, or what quest you're even doing. There's almost no direction, or the direction that's here is either a buggy, broken mess or just confusing as shit. The map will tell you where some objectives are, but not all of them. And even if you deselect a quest, they still show up on the map. Oftentimes it will tell you to go to a certain place, but not tell you what place it's connected to, so you end up just running through almost the whole game again looking for it. I pretty much did every side quest anyway, because I was actually enjoying the game so much, but the whole quest system could have been handled better. It's a relatively short ARPG too, only 3 acts, and Act 3 is really short. In Act 1, the town is some cozy village, in Act 2 it's a secret underground lair, and I especially appreciate how easy it is to respec your character. It's just a couple thousand gold, which is in abundance, so it encourages experimentation. It's fun and viable, which is something ARPGs need. Oh, and sadly, the game is really buggy. Frequent crashes, things not working properly, quests not showing up, achievements not unlocking. That really started to grate on me. The game does really have satisfying achievements though, something I don't usually mention in reviews, but every 5 minutes they'll be popping, and it's kind of fun to hunt them down. The ending of the game was pretty lame and disappointing though. The last boss is just a giant mech with this evil villain guy with wacky voice acting. You just go around destroying these machines, then kill him. He glitched out and just stood there for like 10 minutes doing nothing. Then the game randomly ended with a brief cliffhanger cutscene. Overall though, I'm surprised how much I liked it. I thought the game would be trash, which is why I ignored it for so many years in my library. And especially as a co-op playthrough, it's pretty good. I think the game being fairly easy to comprehend and understand plays a big part in that, but also it has enough depth and challenge to sink your teeth into its various systems if you really want to. It's also quite eventful. In comparison to other ARPGs, every 15 or so minutes, you'll be seeing some cutscene or fighting some big boss, or seeing some new enemy, or see some new unique point of interest. So I could play this game for hours on end and not get bored, unlike other games. So yeah, the game's pretty fun, but it's not without its flaws. And with that being said, I still wouldn't grind the end game or anything. 7 out of 10.
Finally. I hope that it wasn't too boring for the great hunter. I should begin the preparations. I'll ask you again when I need something else.
I wouldn't expect less of any self-respecting mad scientist, at any rate.
I have a feeling we're not in Borgovia anymore.
Something was wrong with the gate. The ink is growing restless. Can you feel it?
Is this my cue to say, "Oh no! We're trapped here for eternity"?
Not yet. There must be a way out of here.
Right. The official Van Helsing motto.